The Secrets of the Universe, straight from Pat Robertson's bestseller.
It absolutely works.
And it's not rocket science. Or is it?
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Learn about the law of reciprocity and find out how to make it work for you on today's 700 Club.
What a beautiful world it would be if we just did that one thing. Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Today we're going to have a teaching out of the Secret Kingdom on the most important law of human interaction. I think you'll find it very, very interesting, and what we could do to bring world peace if we just applied it. President Obama, speaking of peace, is speaking about the revolutions in the Arab world and what some are calling a movement toward democracy.
But others warn that the real story in the Middle East is being overlooked. The threat from Iran. Julie Stahl has the story from Jerusalem.
If you read the headlines and listen to news reports, recent Arab revolutions mean a move toward freedom throughout the Middle East. While the world focuses on these events, it could be missing signs of hard times ahead for Israel and the region.
The worst case scenario facing Israel right now is that the U.S. administration and the European Union and NATO are all so distracted by all the wars and rumors of wars and uprisings that their eyes are off of Iran. Iran is the strategic mortal threat to Israel at this point.
Author Joel Rosenberg tells CBN News that while Osama bin Laden's death is useful for Israel and the U.S., it's not a game changer.
The leadership in Iran and their feverish pursuit of nuclear weapons is the issue in the Middle East, bar none. And everything else is important, but essentially they're sideshow struggles to the main event, and yet the sideshows are sucking up all the political bandwidth in Washington and Brussels and elsewhere.
Iranian leaders could be using those sideshows to their own benefit. CBN News first reported on a secret video produced in Iran that predicts the revolutions will eventually lead to the appearance of the Mahdi, or Islamic Messiah. In Jerusalem for his Epicenter conference, Rosenberg calls the Iranian version of the end of the world a photographic negative of biblical end times theology.
And so in their case, they believe that to hasten the coming of the 12th Imam, the Messiah, you have to kill millions and millions and millions of people, obliterate Israel, and then annihilate the United States, and then the end shall come.
He sees the Middle East situation getting harder.
My sense of things at this point is that things are going to get worse for Israel. I don't see good coming out at this stage from what we've just seen happen in Egypt. Egypt's making very dangerous moves towards Iran when they have been at odds, towards Hamas, as Hamas builds this alliance now with Fatah, which is a disaster for the peace process.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Joel Rosenberg, very popular author, and amazing how he's taken the Bible and spoken about current events and done a very good job of it. Well, Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee, what do we have?
Pat, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia are working together to expand defense ties between the two countries. One of the driving forces behind the move is developing an elite force to protect Saudi Arabia's oil and future nuclear sites. The U.S. may help create an air and missile defense system to defend the Saudis from Iran. All of this work is being done quietly despite a deepening political divide between the two countries. Right now, the Saudis are angry with Washington. They don't like the way the U.S. has handled the recent uprisings across the Arab world. Pat?
We did a story yesterday about the fact that every one of the new mosques here in America is being funded by the Saudis, and the prevailing ideology that is spurring these jihadists is the Wahhabi doctrine, which is interchanged with the leadership of Saudi Arabia. They've made a pact with the devil that if the House of Saud is left alone to run the country, then the Wahhabis, the fanatic Wahhabis, can have their say in religion. And they are spewing out anti-American propaganda, anti-Israel propaganda. And when we go into that country, they treat us like slaves. They think we are their servants. Doesn't matter how much money we put in, the American troops are servants of the Saudis. That's the way they regard us. And I think it's time to sit down with the Saudis and say, listen, guys, if you want us to defend your riches and your oil fields, you've got to open up and stop persecuting Christians, stop persecuting your own people, allow women to have the rights they're supposed to have as human beings, and stop exporting this jihadist mentality. I think it's time we demand from our allies, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and others, that they toe the line. But we're so complacent. The State Department is so wishy-washy in asking for people to adhere to certain basic norms, and I think it's a big mistake. Lee?
Pat, Americans will begin heading out on summer vacations in the next few weeks, or will they? Gas is $4 or more a gallon in some parts of the country, and that has some folks rethinking their travel plans. Heather Sells has more.
The big question for this summer is just how consumers will respond to rising gas prices. Many experts believe they will simply drive less. And what's perhaps even more unclear is whether Washington can pull together and come up with a solution to fix this long-term crisis.
Energy independence means that we need to develop our full spectrum of energy resources here in the United States of America. That means we should be drilling.
Republicans like Congressman Allen West want to increase drilling here at home and the pursuit of other energy sources. And even President Obama is now talking about new oil and gas leases in the Gulf of Mexico and Alaska's National Petroleum Reserve.
We should increase safe and responsible oil production here at home.
But some on Wall Street say when the president uses the word safe and responsible, he's really just winking at environmentalists. Meanwhile, Democrats on Capitol Hill are blaming oil speculators and trying to slash tax breaks for oil companies.
I think we found when these oil company executives testified before Congress last week that at least one of them said that, supply and demand would mean that oil prices really should be about $60 to $70 a barrel. That would mean for Washington drivers, we'd be paying $2.50 a gallon instead of $4 a gallon.
But on Tuesday, a vote to repeal $2 billion a year in tax breaks for oil companies failed. Republicans say ending the tax breaks will not help to drive down prices at the pump. Senator John Cornyn of Texas saying, this is not an energy strategy. This is a public relations strategy. This is a how do I get reelected strategy. It does not solve the problem or the pain that Americans are feeling at the pump. Americans are already taking steps to respond to that pain. And here's one answer that you may see sooner rather than later. It's a GPS-like device that gives real-time information about how much gas you're using.
Essentially, you don't want to accelerate too hard. You don't want to brake too fast. You want to coast to your stops.
The national average for a gallon of unleaded gasoline right now is $3.94. But with Memorial Day just a little over a week away, it's unclear how long that average will last. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Pat, what's the answer?
Well, the answer, I think, is to listen to Boone Pickens, who's a pretty sharp oil man, and he says, and I'll say it again, America is the leading supplier of natural gas. We have an enormous amount of natural gas. Up in the area in Pennsylvania and New York and that part of the country, there's the largest natural gas field in America and about the 5th largest in the world. Huge amounts. And then you look at the other shales that there are across the country. If we had a technology that transferred natural gas into oil, and we could do it, and to use natural gas in our utilities instead of coal, we'd have a much cleaner environment, and it's much cheaper, and it's just crazy not to use it. That's the answer. And talking about adding taxes, if you put more taxes on the big oil companies, sure, they're making a lot of money, but they also right now are paying an enormous amount of taxes. Hundreds of billions of dollars flow out of those companies into the America. But this isn't the government's money, this is private enterprise. And what do they do with that money? They take it and they use it for capital expenditures, what they call CapEx, and in order to drill more wells. So these wells deplete, and then they have to find new ones. So that's what they're talking about, is a depletion allowance, but the oil depletes. So they find the oil and it runs out. It doesn't last forever. And they have to continue to re-drill. So this is not a smart strategy, but natural gas and nuclear are the way to go. And I don't know why it takes us so long to get the message. Lee?
Republicans hope to block a controversial nominee to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Goodwin Liu is a law professor at Cal Berkeley. Conservatives allege he's a liberal activist and that he would write left-wing ideas into the law. He supports same-sex marriage and the use of international law to decide U.S. cases. Republicans also point out he has never served as a judge or a trial attorney and has been involved with liberal groups like the American Civil Liberties Union. Democrats and a few Republicans support him, and the White House says he has, quote, mainstream views, Pat.
I don't know what the mainstream, I remember Chuck Schumer that shot down some of the most wonderful judges you can imagine. These people were so qualified, extraordinarily qualified. Well, he said they're out of the mainstream. You couldn't ask for anybody more out of the American mainstream than this left-winger from out in the university, out in Berkeley. And yet they're going to put him on the Ninth Circuit, which is already the most reversed court in America. Let's hope, I really hope on this one the Republicans will stand tough. They're going to have a vote probably on cloture, and of course if they can't get cloture, then they'll have to pass on it. But I think the Republicans, if there was ever an opportunity to filibuster, this is it. You can't let stuff like that. These people go on the court for life. This isn't just a temporary infection. This is a life-threatening disease. And I call on those Republicans, Tea Party and other conservatives elected you, now stand up and get as tough as the Democrats were. Lee?
Pat, Joint Chiefs Chairman Admiral Mike Mullen is concerned too much information has leaked out about the operation and the elite team that took out Osama bin Laden. Mullen says it's time for former and current U.S. officials to stop talking. He says we are close to jeopardizing that precious capability that we have, and we can't afford to do that. The fight isn't over. Still, Americans have always been fascinated with the Navy SEALs, how they train, what they do, and who they are. And former SEALs are giving folks a glimpse into their world.
Just one day after the world learned the SEALs killed bin Laden, the Walt Disney Company put in the paperwork to trademark the name SEAL Team 6. The application states Walt Disney intends to use the name for a range of products like toys and games. The sale of pins, buttons, books, patches, and just about everything Navy SEAL has skyrocketed. America is fascinated. The SEAL team sent to get bin Laden actually trains right here in Virginia Beach, and this resort city is crawling with Navy SEAL and bin Laden merchandise, like this t-shirt which says, "We got him." But for those looking for more than just t-shirts and bumper stickers, there is something a bit more adventurous. This is the Extreme SEAL Experience in Chesapeake, Virginia. These aren't real SEALs, just regular guys looking for adventure and a challenge.
Back straight, heads up.
Former Navy SEAL Senior Chief Don Shipley runs the place. His phone rings off the hook since bin Laden's death. His website had so many hits, it shut down. Shipley hires other former SEALs to help out. These guys have been on combat missions all over the world and know what it takes to be part of one of America's most elite teams.
Well, the guys that come down here are that cut above, and that becomes the pleasure of running this. They're also looking to get that eye of the tiger thing back they had in their college football days. And now they're stuck in an office cubicle and they've lost it.
While most people spend vacation on the beach basking in the sun, these weekend warriors head to the SEAL Challenge for a taste of what real SEAL training is like.
This is fun, but pushes you.
This is Mark Paris. Back home in New York, he's an electrician.
And I'm 51, so it gets me to that line. And then I have to push myself past it. Make life a little exciting. Doing pretty good for an old man.
1, 2, 3.
John Speaker works for a cable company in Texas. He's here looking for a challenge and to get pushed to the limit.
I don't want to wake up at 80 years old and say I wish I would have. During it stinks, it's tough, but the reward afterwards is what everybody's pushing for.
Guys come here for different reasons, so one of the first things we teach them is about reaching deep inside themselves.
We've got to be at the drop point for them at 10:30.
These guys will likely never gear up for a real combat mission, but after going through this week-long extreme course, they have a new respect and admiration for the Navy SEALs. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Looks challenging, but fun. And Pat, we want our viewers to rest assured neither those former SEALs or CBN News are giving away any secrets, any top secrets. We're not violating what Admiral Mullen was talking about. Those SEALs told us that that's just a glimpse. They're not giving away classified information there.
Yeah. Well, we've had several of them working here in our security forces, and I'm telling you, those guys are terrific. But one of them, a dear friend, John Ria, he was 48, 49 years old. And you know, he called me one morning. He was panting. He had just finished a double triathlon, which meant instead of running 26 miles, he had run 52 miles. 52. Then he had bicycled, I think, 200 miles, and then he had swum 200 yards, 200, I don't know, a couple of miles.
Miles,
I forget. Yeah.
Miles.
And he was out in the whole thing. He came in third, and he was 49 years old.
Wow.
And he spent, I don't know, 23 hours constantly going. These people are tough. We had another one, Mike Delancey, who was a SEAL team instructor, and he was tough as nails. You know, I got some big weights. I have a thing up on the third floor, and they delivered these weights. I mean, they were huge things. I mean, you know, like 70-pound weights, and he just grabbed two of them and ran up the steps, up 3 flights of steps like they weren't even there. He used to go out and he'd run 52 miles, you know, in the mountains, but incredible. In any event,
there's a new meaning to tenacity,
hats
right?
off to them, and we've gotten to know them up close and personal, and they're wonderful people. Speaking of wonderful, the wonderful dog is here today.
He is here today, and he's going to be joining us a little bit later. We're going to tell you about some recent developments for Blue that are pretty exciting. Don't give it away.
Oh, don't give it away. All right, don't give it away.
Hang on to that thought.
Yeah, okay.
Well, up next.
Well, I just say one thing about Blue. They wanted to know if Blue was superstitious. So Blue said, I'm not superstitious. I'm not even stitious. So, I mean,
Blue the talking dog.
Blue's notes on Facebook. All right, what's next?
Well, up next, a rare glimpse at an ancient manuscript.
The handwriting betrays that it actually was copied from something in the 100s. So you're only 3 generations away from Jesus in his own language. That's really cool.
What's also cool is the National Bible Museum that this text will become a part of. Find out more coming up. Plus, our chat room is open now, so if you have a question for Pat, just log on to CBN.com. We're going to be bringing it online a little bit later.
Here we go.
Get ready, because now the more fun you have, the more fit you can get. Introducing the Curves Circuit with Zumba Fitness. It's the only class that mixes the music and moves of Zumba with the proven strength training of Curves for one wildly effective 30-minute workout. Dance on in for a free week. Burn up to 500 calories in 30 minutes. And shimmy as you sculpt. Call now to reserve your place in a class that'll fill up fast. The Curves Circuit with Zumba Fitness. It's the wildly effective workout that's only at Curves.
Tomorrow, this woman lost her job. This man had several, but still couldn't pay the bills.
We had an electric bill of $25, and we're trying to figure out where we could get the money for that.
Both needed a miracle and got one.
I got everything that I wrote on that list.
They discovered the key to financial freedom. Find out how you can too.
What he's done for me and my family, he can also do for any other family out there.
Tomorrow on the 700 Club.
It's the most amazing book that's ever been published, the King James Bible. And this year marks the 400th anniversary of that marvelous translation of the Bible, the most widely read book in the history of the English language. And surveys continue to show that Bible literacy is on the decline. And now one prominent family is working to reverse that trend. Mark Martin brings us that story.
1611, the first printing of the King James Bible, means so-called common people can read for themselves the truth of God's Word. The translation, with its memorable language and poetic phrasing, appealed to a wide audience and became the People's Bible.
It was treasured by them. It was something they would engage in their own lives and in their families. And I think today, the lesson for us today is to treasure the Word of God as much as the translators would, as much as the first people who received that translation did.
That lesson, however, is coming up against a culture that's harder to reach.
It reflects, again, this kind of shift in our value system and worldview that's taken place over the past couple generations.
Dr. Scott Carroll, one of the world's foremost scholars on ancient biblical texts, along with the Green family, the founders of the retail chain Hobby Lobby, say enough is enough. They're now on a mission to reawaken Americans to the importance of the Bible and the heritage of our nation.
Here's a book they've got on their shelf that they may not even know to what extent it has influenced their lives, given them the freedoms that they have. To be able to tell people that story in an engaging, compelling way is something that we're very excited about, and we feel like that's a story that needs to be told.
Steve Green believes a National Museum of the Bible will help, and he's not wasting any time.
This is a Luther Bible.
In just a year and a half, he and Dr. Carroll have bought thousands of rare ancient Bibles, Torahs, scrolls, and artifacts.
Inspire people to reconsider the Bible again, to read it again, to understand its value and its impact.
Dr. Carroll is the director of what's being called the Green Collection. It eventually will be housed in a museum, possibly in Washington, D.C. in 3 to 5 years.
Something that would be impacting 1 million+ people a year. In terms of collections in private hands, very likely is the largest collection in the world in private hands.
So far, the Green family says they've collected more than 30,000 items for the museum. Some date back to as early as 4100 BC. Take, for instance, these cuneiform tablets from Mesopotamia.
I think that we have been able to acquire some things at much less than what they would be worth.
The struggling economy opened doors for the Greens. They purchased Bibles and artifacts at lower rates from organizations wanting to turn their holdings into cash. Steve Green estimates the worth at well above $40 million. The speedy acquisitions have dealers buzzing.
It's not that we are out there looking for recognition, but it's hard not to be noticed when we have collected and spent as much as we have.
I'm delighted with the quality of the things that we have. I'm overwhelmed.
Dr. Carroll believes the most valuable item is this near-complete Bible known as the Codex Climaci Rescriptus. The faint scriptures underneath the bold text are major portions of the Old and New Testaments.
Together, it constitutes the 5th earliest near-complete Bible in the world. The handwriting betrays that it actually was copied from something in the 100s. So you're only 3 generations away from Jesus in his own language. That's really cool.
It is the most incredible book ever put together, that it could not have come together without divine guidance. It is something that all mankind should be reading and adhering to.
And a national museum could be the first step in helping a country founded on biblical principles find its way home. Mark Martin, CBN News, Oklahoma City.
The Green family is amazing. They rescued Oral Roberts University, and now they're doing this. They've helped many, many schools and Christian organizations. But Terry, the deal is, in the old days, they had scrolls, you know, portion, and that was very hard to find proof texts. And so they cut them up and had pages, and they put them together as books. And those books are called codices. And there is a big one in the Vatican Library, and that's the Codex Vaticanus. There's a big one in the monastery in Sinai, and that's Sinaiticus. And I think in Alexandria, Egypt, the library down there was one, and that's the Alexandrinus. And those codices are what we use to translate into the English. So it's very important to have these things.
Well, quite a collection, my word, that they've got.
But
That's
I guess they talked about the 5th most important codex, I guess is what they're going to have, but the other ones are sealed away forever. You know, when you got the Vatican and you've got the, you know, monastery on St. Catherine, I mean, wherever it is in the Sinai.
What I love about it is their intention to establish it in the nation's capital, where people can see it and appreciate it.
Well, it's important. I think, well, in any event, I want to say also to our Jewish friends, having a scroll, and, you know, scrolls are sacred and so forth. Somebody gave me a little reader in the old days. I don't think they even touched the scroll. You have to have this thing and you follow the lines of. But the important thing is to get that material and get it in your heart. You know, that's where it's got to be. It's got to be inside of you, not in a library or in a museum. Okay.
Well, we want to invite you to check out our section on the King James Bible at our website. You'll find videos highlighting the significance of the King James Version, photo galleries, and a timeline of the King James Bible, plus CBN's new online Bible interactive quiz, articles, and lots more. All you have to do is log on to cbn.com. Well, up next, the secret to solving your money problems. And like the law of gravity, you can bank on it. Find out what it is when Pat talks about the secret kingdom after this.
You have money to burn? If not, you need to know the paper dollars you're invested your life savings in are being consumed right now in a growing blaze of inflation and declining value. Economists know why the dollar is burning and at risk of crashing. It's because politicians and central bankers keep printing them. And this makes the dollars you've worked so hard for worth less and less. The politicians and bankers hated the gold standard because it forced them to be honest. That's why the US dollar keeps losing value and could soon crash. The good news is that you can create your own personal gold standard and keep your savings protected when the dollar crashes. Call or visit online now. Find out more about the best performing assets of the 21st century from the best company in the country, Swiss America.
What makes the miracles of Jesus even more miraculous? Standing where they happened, in Israel. Come explore Jerusalem, where Jesus opened blind eyes. Visit the hills of Galilee, where Jesus fed the multitude. Stroll through Capernaum, where Jesus lived and taught and healed. To learn more about standing where it all happened in Israel, visit www.goisrael.com. Come visit Israel.
Is there life after death?
And I began to rise out of my body up into that room.
Are heaven and hell real places?
I can see fields, crystal clear river, trees along both sides.
What determines where I go when I die?
I knew that the first person I saw was Jesus.
Discover the answers to life's most important questions in the 700 Club's Life Beyond the Grave. Real stories from the 700 Club. Available this Friday.
Well, in today's market, it's hard to find a sure investment, but there is one guaranteed to give you a positive return every time. Pat talks about it in this segment from The Secret Kingdom.
As I was praying for wisdom in relation to the way the world works, a principle came to me. I know it was given by the Lord. Jesus Christ was God. He is God. And if He is God, therefore, any statement that He made without qualification in terms of the time or the place of the recipient could be considered as a fundamental principle, like the law of gravity. And so I began to read the Bible with that in mind, and I came across several very important things that, to me, were like laws, like the law of gravity and thermodynamics. It was so simple. Whosoever will, when you see things that are not limited to the recipient, I mean, if He says to a little child, you're going to be a pride to your parents. That isn't a fundamental law for everybody. But when he speaks out broadly, where there's no clarification, no qualification, it becomes a universal principle. And once I found them, I put them in a book, and the book has been very successful and has touched a lot of lives. The next law I want to talk about is where Jesus said a principle that we all know, we've heard it many, many times. It's a law that we find in physics that is the law of reciprocity. The reason we can get a rocket to the moon is that we have exhaust, blast, behind the rocket, which propels it upward. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So that is the law under which we operate jet aircraft. A jet is a turbine that sucks air in one side, blows it out the other, and propels the airplane forward. It's just that simple. So there is a law. For example, if you push a gate hard and it's on a hinge, it'll come back and smack you. You know, if you push it that way, it'll come back. Law of reciprocity. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, Jesus gave us this in terms of giving. He said, give, and it'll be given unto you, pressed down, good measure, running over, will men heap into your bosom. You take what you have, give it, and that starts something coming back to you. It's a law of reciprocity, but it goes beyond that, much beyond it. If you go out in the street and you walk down a street at any city, and as you pass people, you smile at them and you say, good morning, they will smile back. And they might not want to say good morning. They may think you're crazy, but they'll say, oh, yeah, good morning. You watch it. If you give kindness to somebody, you will get kindness back. If you're merciful to somebody, you'll get merciful back. Whatever you meet will be meted back to you again. That is a fundamental law of reciprocity. And just think what it would be like if in our society we had this principle. Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We used to call that the golden rule. But why? You do to them as you want them to do to you. You love them, they love you. You're kind to them, they're kind to you. It just works that way. It's the way that the universe is wired. It's the way it's set up. But think what it would be if we, as nations, put this law into effect. If I'm upstream from somebody, I won't pollute the water that comes out of my place. I won't discharge sewer into the river that's going to flow down to this other man's property, because I wouldn't want somebody doing it to me. I will do to him what I want him to do to me. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. It's so simple. If I wouldn't want to be exploited as a worker, I, as a owner or employer, shouldn't exploit the workers that are given to me. If I wouldn't want to be placed in abject poverty and work like a dog day and night, I wouldn't want somebody doing that to me, and I wouldn't do it to them. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. The law of reciprocity. Whatever you mete out will be meted back to you again. And this is certainly true in business. If you give good service, you'll get good service. If you give loyalty, you'll get loyalty. If you give love, you'll get love. You just name it. Whatever virtue you'd like to have displayed in your life and the life of your family, if you give that to them, and if you have children, for example, if you treat them fairly and you teach them fairness, then they will come back to you with fairness, and they will treat their siblings with fairness because you've trained them that way. do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. The law of reciprocity, it absolutely works. The law of use is the fundamental law of human growth and development. It's the fundamental law of church growth, business growth, labor union growth, political party growth, educational growth, you name it. That is the foundational law of human growth and development. On the other hand, the law of reciprocity is the foundational growth of societal development. Just think of the wars we've had. You think of World War II. Why did we have World War II? Because you had a monster in Germany who said, I need what he called Lebensraum. I need living space. And I'm going to take the space that belongs to the Poles or the Czechs and give it to my people. I want their land. And he plunged us into a hideous war that cost 50 million lives because he didn't follow this simple law. And I think that in today's world, one group wants to get the advantage of the other group, and so they're going to, quote, stick it to them. We're going to take advantage of them. We're going to take away the seats in Congress. We're going to take away their committee chairmanships. We're going to keep them from having judges on the courts. You name it. But that's the attitude we have in Washington. And so there's an attitude of rancor and bitterness always. But if we had the principles of the kingdom, the law of reciprocity, where we were doing to them as we wanted them to do to us, think what a nice world we'd live in. We wouldn't have any wars. We wouldn't have crime. We wouldn't have oppression of one race by another. You can go right down the line of what a beautiful world it would be if we just did that one thing. So to have an ordered society, the law of reciprocity is the secret.
Well, in the weeks to come, we're going to be bringing you more segments from The Secret Kingdom. If you'd like to watch the segment that we just saw again, or if you'd like to share it with a friend, just log on to cbn.com. Pat?
Well, we've been talking about the law of the secret kingdom, and right now I want to show you what happened when a man in El Salvador started putting those laws into practice in his own life. Interestingly enough, he was still in prison when he did it.
Sandro Luna had received the maximum sentence for his crime, 34 years. He killed the man who killed his father.
I was full of hatred and bitterness, and my heart was full of evil.
But something changed after Sandro received a visit from an old friend.
She told me about Jesus and shared words from the Bible with me.
Sandro gave his life to Jesus that day, and the change began immediately. Soon he was moved from solitary to the general prison. That's where he met some prayer counselors from CBN 700 Club Center in El Salvador.
The people from the 700 Club brought us teachings from the Bible and teachings from Pat Robertson's book, The Secret Kingdom. Through that book, I learned about the law of reciprocity, that what you plant is what you will harvest.
Sandro began practicing those teachings from the Secret Kingdom and found he now had something to give his fellow inmates.
Now God has called me to the ministry of evangelism. My desire now is to win souls for Christ right here in prison.
Thanks to the investment of CBN prayer counselors and books like The Secret Kingdom, which is used for Bible studies, more than 650 prisoners have come to faith in Jesus Christ in that prison alone.
May God bless all the people from the 700 Club who are helping us in prison.
You'll never know what your participation with CBN means in the lives of people like that. Just think of that. In the prison, El Reino Secreto, it was a Spanish translation of The Secret Kingdom, had an amazing impact in his life.
Yeah. Life-changing. I mean, it's just amazing how one person impacted by Christ can touch an entire community like that. 600 people
under the Lord, but the principles take hold and they say, hey, this is it. Anyhow, folks, if you want to participate, it's simple. 65 cents a day. Not a lot of money. 65 cents. 2 quarters, a dime, and a nickel. That's all it is. And you can be part of the 700 Club. You can be part of an army of thousands that's changing the world. $20 a month. And I want to send you this. Tomorrow, there's something new coming out that I think you're going to find very interesting, but you can get the Law of Expectation if you call right now. Teaching that Gordon and I did, and I think, again, you thought it was good?
I love that teaching. It's one of my favorites.
One of your favorites?
Well, because I think people are very discouraged today about a lot of things. And we're called to live expectantly because God is able and willing and says, ask and I'll do it. So.
Amen. All right. Well,
we've got some excitement coming up. Still ahead, the Facebook phenomenon affectionately known to all of us as Blue. He's just 17 fans away from breaking 1,000 friends. Right now, of course, he's relaxing in the green room, having a little coffee and some muffins, but he'll be with us in the studio coming up. You don't want to miss it.
Eddie, check out this news story from the 700 Club. It's a perspective you just don't see anywhere else.
Go to CBN.com to I Saw It on the 700 Club for a fast, easy way to see and share your favorite videos.
Do you take fish oil? There's an omega-3 supplement that's better than regular fish oil.
Staying healthy, it's not easy. I exercise regularly and eat lots of fruits and vegetables. I used to take a fish oil supplement too, but then I discovered something better than regular fish oil. Arctic Wonder Omega-3 Krill Oil. It's from the makers of One A Day, so I know I can trust it. The omega-3s in Arctic Wonder both support heart health and are scientifically proven to be better absorbed than regular fish oil. You'd have to take 6 of these fish oil soft gels to get the strength of just 2 Arctic Wonder soft gels.
The Arctic Wonder does not have an aftertaste.
They go down real easy. Arctic Wonder isn't just good for your heart. It also supports healthy brain function and a healthy immune system.
This is one of the products that I plan to take for the rest of my life.
Arctic Wonder is from One A Day and not available in stores. For a special trial offer, call or go online now. Call 1-800-409-7339. That's 1-800-409-7339. Or go online to tryarcticwonder.com now.
Welcome to Washington for this CBN News Break. Supporters of Israel are launching an ad campaign as the Obama administration applies new pressure to the Jewish state to renew peace talks with the Palestinians. Here's a look at the ad from IsraelYou'reNotAlone.com.
This is what happens in Israel when they give away land for peace. Don't let Hamas move their rockets any closer to innocent Israeli families.
The group is also placing an ad in the Wall Street Journal supporting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's heading to the U.S. to meet with President Obama Friday. Then he'll make a major speech to Congress next week. Police have issued 11 criminal warnings to those who disrupted a worship service at San Antonio's Cornerstone Church. Last Sunday, Pastor John Hagee dedicated services to supporting Israel. Several people stood up, shouted, and interrupted his sermon with an illegal protest. Here's a brief look. As you can see, churchgoers applauded as security officers escorted the protesters from the building. Police were able to issue warnings for trespass. Cornerstone was one of hundreds of churches that participated in Christians United for Israel's 3rd annual event. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
My name is Roger Stump, and I'm a cancer survivor. The surgeon said it's inoperable. It's already in your liver. My wife Brenda sat there and cried, and I'm thinking, I can't die right now. I'm only 52 years old. I was so distraught. I've heard Cancer Treatment Centers of America had experience with pancreatic cancers. It was like night and day. The hospital just breeds an environment of hope. You'd get a CT scan, and the next morning, the results were read to you. We'd go up there, I just knew it was going to be a good result. You could just see the joy on Dr. Granick's face.
Call now and we'll show you how the most compassionate people anywhere put you at the center of everything we do. Together, we'll explore real treatment options you may not even know exist.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is such a different place because they give you hope. I would strongly urge you to call them and get a second opinion.
Please call today.
Tomorrow, this woman lost her job. This man had several, but still couldn't pay the bills.
We had an electric bill of $25, and we're trying to figure out where we could get the money for that.
Both needed a miracle and got one.
I got everything that I wrote on that list.
They discovered the key to financial freedom. Find out how you can too.
What he's done for me and my family, he can also do for any other family out there.
Tomorrow on the 700 Club.
It's hard to hide him. Recently, we had a comment on Blue's Facebook page. This is from Carla. She said, Blue is too cute to be in hiding, so where's Blue? Well, Carla, this is your lucky
Blue,
day.
And,
Here he is.
Chris is going to bring him over to us.
Come here, Blue.
Come here, buddy. Come here, Blue. Come here, baby.
He says, there's my dad.
Yeah, oh, you want to see?
Baby.
He likes girls better than boys.
Well, understandably. Francine has a question for you.
Yeah.
Francine, hello, baby.
He's more
yes, you
kissing
are
you. Why don't you sit down,
and you're
baby?
popular.
Why don't you sit? Sit, please.
This is Francine who says,
Sit,
I love
sit.
Blue. Does he work out? She wants to know.
Well, he never stops
moving.
He's peripatetic. I think that's the word.
He's a beauty, Pat. He's grown since I saw him last.
He's growing like a weed. He's a real
Now, will
nice
he get much bigger than he is?
A good deal bigger.
Look.
He's a sweet dog.
Now, we need the fireplace on. You need a good book and your dog lying at your feet. What else is there?
Oh, he's so comfortable. He loves it here. He
does.
I told him he was coming over here. He was so happy. Everybody's so nice to him.
You're scaring me.
Look at him. Look at
gorgeous.
Him. He loves it. I mean, TV's where his home is. He knows that.
And he's, really, I think many people are intimidated by Dobermans, but they're very smart. And you've had him since he, yes, you are. I know, sweetheart.
Oh, yeah. Oh. He's just, that's his yawn.
Are you talking to your dad?
Somebody wrote in, by the way, I said, occasionally I give him a vitamin D. They said vitamin Ds aren't good for him, so I'll pass that on. So don't give your dog vitamin D.
Don't give your Doberman a vitamin D.
But it certainly hasn't hurt him. Somebody else want to know, how come he has such a shiny coat? I have not given that dog a bath since I've had him. I sprayed him once with a hose. Beyond that, I brush him. You brush him.
Well, the natural oils do that for them,
All right, what do you want to do?
Hi, baby.
All right, that's enough. Go over there with wherever. There you go.
There he says, okay, I'm done.
All right. He's had his moment in the sun. All right.
He's very well behaved.
He's a good dog.
Okay, so Francine, we answered her question. Here's a comment from someone identifying themselves as Christ Forever. This person says, I'm not a fan of Disney capitalizing on SEAL Team 6. I don't agree with having toys and shirts and rubbing it in the enemy's face. I think it's wrong.
I quoted when it first happened the day after. The Bible says in Proverbs, don't gloat when your enemy falls, because the Lord might lift his hand from him. I just think, when your enemy falls, just praise God, but don't go into wild celebration. Don't gloat when he falls, because the Lord say, okay, I'm going to lift my hand. Mm-hmm. If God's got his hand on him, leave him alone.
Stay humble,
right. But that type of celebration over the death of anybody is not a good thing. What else?
Well, earlier it says you had a story on the Bible Museum. Here's a question from one of our viewers. I hear arguments saying the NIV Bible is corrupt and satanic because there are words missing, and that the only true Bible is the King James Version. What's your take on this?
I think the NIV was put together by godly people who love the Lord, very strong evangelicals, very true and accurate. The King James, like it or not, has got some errors. It was translated from what's called the Textus Receptus, and the Textus Receptus was put together by a guy named Erasmus, and that's where you get the Greek and the Hebrew. So the Hebrew came out of probably the Hebrew Bible, but from the New Testament, and so there were words left out. Unless you're a Greek or a Hebrew scholar, you don't know what's been left out. And they taught us in seminary something called textual criticism. It was very, very helpful, where we learned how to analyze what was the best version to translate. And there's one principle, I say it, invariably, the phony stuff are the ones with the flowery words and more words to them. the simple, hard-bitten text of the original was direct, and it has the stamp of authenticity. But they always want to improve on it. A few more words and so forth and so on. And so you see, there's some words missing. It's probably a good thing. All right, what else you got?
Well, this person says Stephen Hawkins recently said that heaven is a quote fairy tale. What do you make of that? This is Gary.
Stephen Hawkins is a man who's got, I guess, I don't know if it's Lou Gehrig's degrees or what he's got, but he's in a wheelchair and he speaks through one of those microphone things. They say he's very brilliant, but in this one, what do I say? He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's never been to heaven. He doesn't know.
Well, sometimes I'm sure when your life has been very difficult like that, and you haven't grown up understanding the goodness of God and the love of God in spite of circumstances, there's probably a bitterness there that springs out of.
But I don't know, because that's what he's thinking. You can't prove it empirically, but we've got something we're going to start giving tomorrow about testimonies of life after the grave. People who've been there, people who've been to heaven. Yes. And I tell you, as somebody says, somebody with an experience is never at the mercy of someone with an argument. All right?
Exactly. Okay, this is Faye who says, I have prayed for help and believed I received, but I have payments due, creditors calling, and a home in foreclosure. What do I do?
I tell you what you better do is to face the fact of why'd you get that way. What's wrong with the way you handle money? And God will bless you, but he's not going to bless an open sewer where you throw money in. And so I think you need to go back and say, why is my home in foreclosure? Why have I had these problems?
It's a hard thing to do.
And then it might be better to say, okay, let it go. Yeah. And, start fresh.
It's not the worst thing.
It really isn't. I mean, your house is foreclosed. Maybe you're carrying an enormous burden, and you might say, well, how could I handle things better if I didn't have that house payment? How could I? But you sit down and make a budget. Sit down and figure what it is you're doing. You say, well, why didn't God answer my prayer? Well, maybe this answer right now is his answer to you. Get your house in order. If you need to get a financial advisor to go over with you a simple budget and put down how much you spend, how much money comes in, you can't spend more than what comes in. And that's for starters. All right?
Well, we've got great news. You'll be excited to hear this. Blue just broke 1,000 fans on his Facebook page, and look at him. He's right proud of it. Can I just say?
He's so happy in the green room. He's our honored guest.
Another cup of coffee.
Maybe they'll give him a muffin. They got muffins back in there. Maybe they'll give him a muffin. He seems very happy.
He does.
1,000 friends on Facebook. Good for Blue. All right.
Well, up next, his college professor told him he would never accomplish anything, but he went on to become the keynote speaker at his university's graduation. Reggie Dabbs tells us how he turned adversity into advantage after this.
In the next 60 seconds, we want you to qualify to be the next $50,000 home makeover winner. Pick up the phone and get ready to start dialing when the number appears on your screen. Call the number on your screen now, and we'll mail you a key. If your key opens the lock in your local Direct Buy Club, you'll be the next $50,000 home makeover winner. Operators are standing by, so call right now. Direct Buy Club has already awarded over $1 million, and someone is going to win the $50,000 home makeover. Why not you? If the phone number is blinking, the phone lines are open. Call now to receive your key and an invitation to your local Direct Buy Club, where members can save thousands or more paying low direct from the source prices on big ticket items like kitchen cabinets, home furnishings, flooring, bathroom fixtures, and so much more. Call now and get your key to winning a $50,000 home makeover. Someone is going to win the $50,000 home makeover. Why not you?
In high school, 3 little words shamed Reggie Dabbs. Those words were, hey, 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 from the Fat Albert cartoon. And Reggie heard them frequently in the hallways. Now, 20 years later, Reggie's back in school, and here's why.
For more than 2 decades, Reggie Dabbs has been one of the most sought-after motivational speakers for public schools in the U.S. and around the world. Each year, he speaks to some 2.5 million students in school assemblies, amphitheaters, and churches. Reggie connects with students from all walks of life by bringing them a message of hope. He tells them that while they can't change their past, they can change their future.
Please welcome to the 700 Club, Reggie Dabbs. Reggie, it's great to have you
It's
here.
good to be with you today.
Your book is called Reggie, and the subtitle of the book is You Can't Change Your Past, but You Can Change Your Future. Tell us what happened to you at the age of 7 that really kind of rocked your world.
My mom and dad went to school for parent-teacher conference, and when we walked out of the classroom, all my friends were there with their parents, and I noticed all my friends' parents were young, and my parents were old. So as a kid, I thought, I might as well ask. So I yelled to the front seat on the way home, "Why y'all old?" and that was the day that they sit me down and told me I was in foster care.
And that really, even though you were in a very loving adoptive family, that really brought a lot of rejection and abandonment issues into your life. What did it make you feel?
Well, you see, the world always has a plan. But then, of course, God has a plan. And it seems like always you have to understand what the world wants to put you under so that God can bring you out. Yeah. And so the world will always label you things. My mom slept with a man for $20. That's how I was born. So that's the value that the world put on me. But God said, I'll give you my son. He'll pay the ransom so that you can do whatever I've called you to do.
And today you know that message, Reggie, but you had a long time where you were under the world's message, where you felt condemned by that.
Yes.
And how did God change you? How did you get that message that you were chosen, loved, planned for, celebrated?
I got it from my foster care parents, and I know you have foster kids as well, and I thank you for what you do for us, because boys like me wouldn't become men like me if it wasn't for a lady like you who would put me in their home and love me and take care of me. My mom, my real mom, gave me away to her favorite teacher at school. So I was raised by my mom's school teacher, and that teacher taught me everything. And her husband, they were church people. We went to church all the time. I remember at 10 years old, I was riding a city bus to school, and I ran into this man, and he had the same skin color as me. I'm not the darkest, I'm not the lightest. I call it Carmelo, all right? And I ran into him.
I call it pretty.
I said, thank you. I said, excuse me, sir. He said, excuse me, son. And when he did that at 10, something clicked in my mind. I said, oh, he's my dad. And I literally followed him to work. And there was security. He went in. I couldn't go in the building. I stood on the corner and I thought to myself, nobody cares. And I just stared at the ground and I cried. And I could feel the people walking by me. And I know they saw me crying, but nobody stopped.
It wasn't just the kids in the hall at school that teased you either. Even later in life, you had a professor that spoke a terrible word to you.
Yeah, I struggled in school. I had some hard times in schools, but that teacher, I guess now, of course, I have to look at it through the way Pat Robertson says, through good eyes, and that maybe they were trying to push me to become who I am today by saying that I wouldn't do anything. But and it did help me do that. But what I realized is words are words, but God's words are greater, you know? And that's why I finally put it in the book, my story of the grace of God, the love of God, and that no matter, maybe you're standing on the corner today and inside you're crying because you think nobody cares. Somebody cares for you.
You know, the enemy is called the father of lies, and he speaks those lies to us through other people, through our circumstances, but God's given you a great message today that you're bringing to kids around the country. We've only got a second, but can you share with us, what do you say when you speak to these kids?
Well, what I say is simply this. Every life has a history. Your past is your history, but it's not your destiny.
Exactly.
Jesus can be your destiny. And I know in the public school realm, I'm not able to say Jesus, but the characteristics that I have in my life are straight from the Word of God. And you can't take that out of who you are. Absolutely. So even though I'm going to public schools on their playing field, yet and still kids are like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And they go online, they hear about who I really am, and they find hope and faith. So what I tell kids is never give up. No matter how you start, it's how you end up that counts.
Get a hold of more of that kind of truth in this book. It's called Reggie. You can't change your past, but you can change your future. It's available wherever books are sold. A wonderful message. Thank you. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Pat?
Mara, meet a man whose salary jumped from $30,000 to 6 figures in just 1 year. Find out the strategy can work for you. We'll see you later.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.